Hello and welcome back to Ryan Bowlin Presents Everything But Bowling, the podcast that we talk about everything but bowling. We got a great episode for you today. It took about 3 months to coordinate and weave through all the difficulties of, service this, service that. We finally got something in. It was a great conversation with my boy. You guys are going to love it. And that's the long hiatus that we had. I'm not going to apologize because I don't want to put out any BS content. If I'm going to spend my time and work hard at producing something, it's because I know that it can be great and I know that other people will like it. I finally found the niche of, I think people are going to like this one. I'm going to get another episode out. I'm not going to be, every week. At some point in my life, yes, probably every week, because I'll have the notoriety and the respect to get somebody cool enough every single week. But, in the early stages of the pod, guys, you guys are the OGs. When I'm making it big, fingers crossed, you guys are the OGs. I respect y'all. So, like up, share up. Let's get some more views. Eventually, I'm going to be at the point where I can get, essentially maybe anybody that I want. But at this point in time, it's picking and choosing and hoping people respond and all that stuff. And when I finally get them, then I go with the episode. So that's what we got here today. We'll get right into it. When you think about old Viking teams, I love so many of them. You think about, Percy Harvin, Bernard Berry, and even Chester Taylor, Vedante Shenko on the offensive side of the ball, Sidney Rice, Brett Favre, Toby Gerhardt even in the later years. Then you got John Sullivan on the O-line, Steve Hutchinson. So many cool names when you think about it. Like, oh, that was the team that I watched, growing up as a little kid. And on the defensive side of the ball, you got Jared Allen, Kevin Williams, Pat Williams, Antoine Winfield. So, the safety corner, you had it all. Brad Childress coaching the teams, it was awesome. But then you had number 96. Not only the host of the viral miniseries, 96 Questions, he was also a Vikings defensive end for 11 seasons. The only franchise he ever put a jersey on for, the Minnesota Vikings. Only one. 11 seasons with them. But more importantly, our guest tonight, calling in from Texas, we got Brian Robison on the phone here today. Brian, thanks so much for taking the time to speak with us today, man.
Yeah, no problem. Thanks for having me on.
So my first question for you, it's got to be a tough one. I just rattled off a bunch of players that I think, that I remember from a decade ago Vikings teams. Who would you say your favorite teammate was throughout your career?
Oh, man, that's a tough one because throughout the years I've had some great ones, but probably one of my favorite ones was Kevin Williams. When I came into the league as a young pup, he kind of took me under his wing a little bit and kind of showed me the ropes of how to be a true professional and how to kind of mature throughout the process and things like that. So I think for me, just the things that I was able to gravitate and learn from him and just, different things even outside of football, I think that he probably would be the guy that I point out the most.
Yeah, I respect that. I respect that for sure. And then, I think I personally became a big fan of yours through your miniseries, 96 Questions. How did that series even come about?
Man, it was kind of just a chance deal. They approached me and said, hey, would you be interested in doing some sort of bit on the Vikings network that we want to be able to do and, make it light and easy and something funny where you can ask, quirky questions. And then once we heard about the questions, we kind of put things together, just calling it 96 Questions. And it really just, I never dreamed and imagined that it could have ended up being as big as it was. Just even other teams now, you see other guys in other locker rooms doing the same bit and stuff like that. And honestly, I don't take that as a slap in the face. I take it as kind of a compliment because I think we had something that was very special there. And like I said, it was one of those deals that I never expected it to grow and become what it became. And it became a huge deal.
Yeah, it definitely did. I got to ask, and I know it's probably hard to choose, but my personal favorite episode of 96 Questions was, which teammate would you least want to date your sister? And, all the guys going after Stephon Diggs and all saying to him that they wouldn't want him to date their sister. So what's your favorite episode? What was your favorite?
It's hard not to go with that one. With the classic answer that Anthony Barr had, that was pretty awesome. But yeah, I think everybody thinks that was probably their favorite. I think that was probably the best episode we have ever had for sure. But yeah, poor Stephon. It's funny. Everybody's like, well, what's so wrong with Stephon? And I think it was just one of those deals. It was just a funny little quirky deal. And, it was funny because we always had, no matter what deal you had some guy that was going to get picked on, and it just happened to be that Stephon ended up being that guy that episode.
Now, I know it's got to be hard to choose, but, you were a part of so many great teams for the Minnesota Vikings. What would you say your favorite Vikings team that you were a part of was?
I think off the top of my head, I mean, there's two teams that always stand out, and that's 09 and 17. I think 09 we were very, very talented. We had a lot of guys that are in the Hall of Fame or going to be future Hall of Famers. You had a lot of Pro Bowl guys on that team. I think we were super, super talented, and losing that NFC game, it was crazy because, in all honesty, we should have won that game. We probably should have won a Super Bowl that year, and we just didn't get it done. We made too many mistakes in that NFC Championship game to get it done and put ourselves in a bad situation. But I think probably my favorite team overall was 2017, and it was more for not necessarily what we did on the field, but more so what we were able to accomplish in the locker room and things like that. That was really kind of the beginning of a lot of stuff that was kind of going on in our world, and the way we were able to stick together, bond as a brotherhood, the way we were able to have camaraderie and truly, it truly was like a family atmosphere inside our locker room, and the way we were able to get along and get through and process a bunch of things and talk with each other and all that stuff. I think we overcame a lot. And to me, that was what set that team apart, was just the way we bonded as brothers.
But before I get more into the 09 NFC Championship game, I interviewed Paul Allen, the voice of the Minnesota Vikings, for our first few episodes here on the pod, and he was one hell of a guest, one hell of a guy. Did you ever have some type of relationship with Paul, and what do you think about his play-by-play style for the Vikings?
Yeah, I mean, I had a great relationship with Paul. I think he's one of the best in the business. I think he's been doing it a long time for the Minnesota Vikings, and I think he's one of the premier guys probably in the league that a lot of people know who he is. At the end of the day, I think he calls the game great. I think his little quirks and stuff that he's got, and that type of deal. I think those are things that guys recognize across the league.
I hate to bring up the bad memories, but, we got to talk about it. 2009 NFC Championship game, Brett Favre rolls out to his right, goes across his body, intercepted on his way to Sidney Rice, picked off Tracy Porter. You go to overtime, you end up losing. What was going through your mind, I guess, in those final moments of that 2009 season?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is Brett Favre was he was a risk taker, and you knew that, but you always had faith that he was going to be able to get it done. And unfortunately for us, honestly, we should have never even been in that position. We had way too many turnovers throughout the game that put us in that type of position. In all honesty, I mean, as bad as I hate to say it, it should have been a blowout. But that loss rides on us. We had too many turnovers, and it just did not work out for us. But, I mean, we tried to reset our minds, and, then you get into overtime, and there's a couple of sketchy calls and stuff like that. So, I mean, it is what it is. At the end of the day, we didn't win the game, and we didn't put ourselves in the proper position to win that game. And but yeah, anytime you got a guy like Brett Favre back there, I mean, he's going to take risks, but you always expect him to be able to come through. And unfortunately, that day it didn't happen. And we tried to get our minds right and go back out there and play defense, and it just didn't work out in our favor.
Yeah, and you talk about sketchy plays. It did come to light, obviously, with that Saints team. That, they had the Bountygate paying players to, injure star players on the opposing team. It had to be Brett Favre in that NFC Championship game. So, what were your thoughts on Bountygate?
Yeah, I mean, I hate to use the slogan, it is what it is, because it's probably not the right slogan in the moment. But at the same time, it's one of those deals where, you don't like the fact that those guys were doing that, and they were teeing off on the quarterbacks and things like that, and doing the bounty deal and everything like that. But at the end of the day, it still comes down to X's and O's. It still comes down to executing. And while I don't think it was right, I also still don't think we played well enough on that day to win that ball game. And really and truly, that's what it comes down to. the Bountygate, was it wrong in a lot of aspects? Absolutely. Do I think it's why we lost the game? No, I don't.
Yeah, and I hate to bring up more bad memories, but 2015 NFC Wild Card game against Seattle. We came in, won the division, going up against the Wild Card team in Seattle at home, TCF Bank Stadium, one of the coldest games in NFL history. We drive down the field at the end of the game, down 10-9, I think it was, and Blair Walsh put that ball down, and the kick just did not go straight whatsoever. What was going through your head in that, one of the most devastating moments, I think, in my lifetime watching the Minnesota Vikings?
Oh, man, that was a heartbreaker. Strictly for the fact that I thought that was another team that we had a really good opportunity that if we could get past Seattle, even though we were the division champions, I thought they were probably one of the tougher teams in the playoffs, and I felt like, honestly, if we got past that team, we could make some hay in the playoffs. I mean, the teams that were left was Arizona and Carolina, and both those teams we had favorable matchups against, and I really thought we had an opportunity to get something done in the playoffs with that team, and unfortunately for us, it came down to a nail-biter. It was a great defensive ball game, and it came down to a field goal, and unfortunately for us, we missed that field goal and, didn't move on.
Yeah, enough about the bad times of your career. Let's talk about post-career. You seem to be busy with a lot of fishing stuff. Just kind of talk about what you've been up to since retiring.
Oh, man, I think I'm busier now that I've retired than I was when I was playing football. And, before it was just I had football and family to worry about. Now, I'm in the process of we bought a ranch here in Texas about 2 years ago, so just doing work on the ranch, things like that. I'm fishing a lot now. I'm shooting my own YouTube series. We actually just shot the first episode for this year, I guess a couple of weeks ago. It'll be coming out this week. And basically, man, tournament fishing, basically anything to do with fishing is what I'm doing right now. And I'm doing a lot of videos and content to put out there on YouTube. I want my fans to be able to follow along post-career as well. And I've had a lot of support with that and appreciate it very, very much. So I'm going to try to put out all the content that I can out there so people can follow along post-career.
Yeah, that's awesome. Circling back to your NFL career, do you miss playing, football in the NFL and for Minnesota anymore?
It's weird. I don't really think about it a lot. I still work out, pretty much at least 5 days a week I work out. That's one thing I can't get out of my system. I got to stay in shape. It just, honestly, physically, it just makes me feel better. Otherwise my back starts aching and stuff like that. So I don't really, from that aspect, I still have a lot of that lingering in me, but I don't really think about it a lot until I get around the guys. And that's to me what I miss the most is being around the guys, the conversations we are able to have. Especially in our world nowadays with all the issues that we've got going on, I've always said that if people could see how we interact in a locker room and apply that to life, the world would be a much better place. Because we came from different backgrounds, we had different issues, and there was times we agreed to disagree. There was times that we could listen and be compassionate with each other, and that was what was so great about it. And I think that's what I miss the most is being able to have those conversations, lay things out on the table, and either, you get your eyes opened up to something or you agree to disagree, or, sometimes you'd have a heated argument and then it'd be over with. It'd be done.
Yeah, speaking of missing the game, since your retirement, have you ever tried to make, some sort of NFL comeback and fielding any calls or anything like that?
No, man. I mean, I tried really hard in 2018 after I got released from the Vikings. I was even still holding out hope that maybe during the season they'd bring me back. And it just never worked out. And, I think I may have had an opportunity to go to one other team. And at that point in my career, it just wasn't right for me and my family. And I wasn't just going to, go anywhere. And, one thing that was really important for me was, my legacy in Minnesota. I didn't want to just, I guess it's not probably the right word, but I didn't really want to abandon my fans in Minnesota, I didn't want to ruin that legacy. I thought it was very important, my legacy, playing 11 years in Minnesota, the only team that I was with. So I wasn't just going to up, skip, and jump and just go anywhere for the heck of it. And I think for me, there just wasn't an opportunity for me to go somewhere that was right for me and my family. And on top of that, the opportunity just never really came around. And it was unfortunate because I thought I had at least a couple of years left in me. But I officially retired like a year later after that, and I have no regrets, man. I've got to spend a lot of time with my family. So I'm where I'm supposed to be in life, man.
I think you had one of my favorite sack celebrations, when you finish your sack and you do the little fishing, bringing that fish up, get it together. I think it was one of my favorites, definitely. Was that just your love of fishing, or how did that come about? Why did you choose that one to be your celebration?
Yeah, I mean, that was it, man. I wanted to promote the fishing industry, in my time. And then, of course, I realized real quick it was a passion that I wanted to pursue when I was done playing, whether that's working in the fishing industry, whether that's being a fisherman. And, that has, stuck with me. I mean, I've become part owner in a tackle store down here in Texas, which is a very well-known tackle store here in Texas called Tackle Addict. So I'm actually invested in the fishing industry as well. So, but that was a dance that kind of came up as a few friends talking, and just kind of ran with it. And yeah, I mean, it was pretty awesome how it was received by a lot of people.
Just off the cuff, say Rick Spielman calls you later tomorrow and says he wants you on the Vikings roster next season. What are you saying?
Man, I don't know about that one. I may be a little past that time. I mean, I guess I would contemplate it if he did call me, but as of right now, there's a difference between being in shape and being in football shape, and I am by far not in football shape right now.
You've had the ability and the honor of playing with and against some of the greatest quarterbacks in NFL history, Peyton Manning, Drew Brees, Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, and the list goes on and on. What would you say, your opinion on who the best quarterback in NFL history is, and, who is the toughest quarterback that you had to face, on the rush?
Man, I mean, it's hard to argue with Tom Brady. I mean, anytime a guy's gone to, 9 Super Bowls or 10 Super Bowls now, and he's got 7 championships, 7 rings on his finger, it's hard to argue with a guy like that. But I will say this, I mean, probably the guy to me that gave you the most problems as a defensive end when you rush him was Aaron Rodgers. Everybody talks about Russell Wilson and, some of those guys. And while, yes, they are very difficult to rush, Aaron always seemed to be a step ahead. Like, if you got too high on the rush, he knew he could escape through the B gap. If you came inside too fast, he knew he could escape outside. And he was always looking for that window to be able to have that escape route to where he could get outside the pocket. And in a lot of ways, he's more dangerous outside the pocket as a passer than he is inside the pocket. So he was obviously one of the most difficult guys to rush, and you had to be probably the most disciplined against him than anybody else.
I agree completely. Well, Brian, that's all I got for you. I appreciate your time. Skol Vikes. Good luck with all the fishing stuff, and I look forward to seeing your YouTube and how the rest of your post-NFL career goes.
Thank you, man. Appreciate it very much.
Brian Robison, everybody. Just not too much of a post-interview conversation here today. I do want to say I am dedicating this episode to my grandpa. I'm in his house. He did unfortunately pass away a couple of weeks ago, so I've kind of been staying at his house. So this is my makeshift studio, using some of his lights and all that stuff. He big Vikings fan, big Twins fan, so I'm going to dedicate this episode to him. I think he would have thought it was so cool that I got to talk to one of the better defensive ends of Vikings history. So definitely thank you to Brian Robison for his time and talking with us. And Skol Vikes. Hopefully OTAs and all that stuff, off-season stuff, go as well. And Minnesota Vikings can maybe make a Super Bowl run next year. Got the first 17-game season, right? So we'll see how that record shapes out. Obviously I think we're going to go undefeated, but we won't. So we'll see what ends up happening with that. But appreciate your time. Next episode is going to be Mr. Kevin Williams. who was said by B-Rob that is his favorite teammate that he's ever played with. So I may or may not have asked Kevin Williams who his favorite teammate was that he played with, and we'll see if they go together or they go apart, and that makes a little rift in the friendship. I doubt it, but yeah, they gave similar answers. But anyways, thank you for your time, and I'll see you next episode.